Good morning, and I'd like to welcome you with Coffee with the Sheriff. I'm Danny H. Rogers, Sheriff of Guilford County. Today, my guest is
Sharon Harrison-Pope, Reentry Coordinator.
Ed Williams, Director of Guilford County Reentry.
I'd like to talk a little bit about our Reentry Program, okay? Bring us up to date, bring me up to date on the history of the Reentry.
The Reentry Program started as a grassroots movement in 2015 while I served as the chaplain at the High Point Detention Center. We began pulling stakeholders together because there was a need. We had programming within the jails, but there weren't anyone connecting. There was no connecting point. For example, to be able to refer the residents from the jail to the stakeholders to services that were provided in the community. So we began doing that. In 2017, there was the Department of Public Safety put out a grant for agencies and organizations to develop a local reentry council. And so as a result of us already having this grassroots movement, we took everything that we did from 2015 to 2017, we turned that over to the Sheriff's Department. And they took everything that we developed and used that to write the grant. And from there, I think Sharon will be able to kind of give us a little bit of an update on what that grant looked like.
Absolutely. The grant was originally a 3-year grant, so we were able to do planning for the Reentry Council to sort of put the foundation in place to establish all of our stakeholders, to solidify the relationships we have with those, developing quarterly meetings, and basically just a huge planning phase initially, so that we can learn. We had learned from other reentry councils throughout the state how they're doing things. Ours is actually a little bit different than all of the rest. We are fortunate to be up under the Sheriff's Office and have that guidance and leadership, and it basically brings the opportunities to be inside the local jails and to have that seamless transition with inside and outside. We serve both the residents that are confined locally, as well as state and federal folks that have been released, and we assist them with basic services.
Okay. So as I heard a key word, stakeholders. Stakeholders. People have been incarcerated for years. From we can go back for generations, hundreds of years, and over the years, we've seen where the incarcerating rates have climbed due to mental health issues, due to the lack of quality health that people need, poverty, education, too. So help me understand and help us to be able to help our community understand the simplicity of reentry, of how it is important for them to understand they need to be a part as a stakeholder, from business owners as well as educators and those that are out here that can help people enter back into society. Help us understand that piece of it.
Sharon, you can pick that up and I'll follow you.
Okay. Basically, we have the way we're structured, we have different components to include health and wellness and employment, education, basic needs. Those are things that we have different sort of subcategories of the reentry program. The health and wellness component would be something such as substance abuse assistance and treatment, mental health, because as you mentioned, we do have a large number of our residents inside our facilities that have ongoing and chronic mental health issues, as well as those suffering from substance abuse issues. Employment issues, we have those who have had convictions and are convicted felons and have issues getting a job. The educational component, those that have that are in need of educational assistance, higher education, trade training to get those jobs that would pay a livable wage. and of course the just basic needs. We have folks that come in during the winter, or during the summer, get out during the winter, and they don't have appropriate clothing at the minute they walk out the door. So we have folks that homelessness is a terrible issue. So there's a myriad of issues that we deal with on a daily basis.
And part of what we've done for the last several years is we've educated our employers, letting them know that these individuals, they may have committed a crime, have a record, but they're valuable citizens to our community.
Yes.
And so they need, they deserve a second chance. And so we've been, really trying to help them to understand that they're valuable, they could be valuable assets to their companies. And as far as mental health and those kind of things, connecting outside stakeholders, for example, when somebody leaves the jail or somebody's coming home from prison, if they came home and they're on medication, they were on medication while in the jail or the prison, they need to have that connecting resource in the community so that there's not a lot of lapse time in their treatment. And so working with those organizations and agencies to help them to better understand that.
Okay. So I hear keyword connecting.
Mm-hmm.
I focus on keywords. Bridging the gap. It's important that the gap is closed where we can help those who need the help. So with that being said, what programs that we have tapped in so far that are working with us, that when they leave here, before they leave, before the paperwork is clocked for them to be released, what programs are really being open with us to help the citizens of Guilford County, as well as the state of North Carolina? And I tell people, although they may be released here from Guilford County, they may end up somewhere else in this state, living or working, but they may also exit outside the state of North Carolina. So what programs do we have that are helping them, educational-wise? What programs?
Well, within the year, we have a program called FIT, Felons in Transition. That's a program that was funded by Department of Public Safety. We have a peer support person who he was in prison, and so he works with the men and women who are coming out. He helps them to navigate the health system. He works with them. Then we have a discharge planner with our well path. And so that individual also works with them, connected to the Reentry Council, helping us to connect those individuals to those resources. Sharon, you could talk about the educational piece.
Absolutely. We have a very, very wonderful, strong partnership with GTCC, the local community college, and they have revamped. They have received some additional grant funding to bring the GED testing and high school equivalency testing back inside the facilities so that we can get started with folks. We want to make sure that our residents, once they come in, from the moment they get here, that we are trying to begin planning for their release, whether it be 2 weeks, 2 months, or whatever. We want to start and use that time that they're inside constructively. So GTCC is currently coming into the facility. They're doing like I said, the high school equivalency program. They've revamped it, ramped it up. And also for those who already have their high school equivalency, we have resource fairs that we bring in GTCC representatives, and they go and they can link them to programs that they have, but also if they wanted to attend any other higher education to get advanced degrees, because as you know, the more education a person gets, the less likely recidivism is for them. GTCC is also inside the facilities now offering human resource development classes. And what this does is to help the person understand about how to go into a job interview and what to expect, how to dress, cell phone usage, that kind of thing, to make them a more marketable candidate. We also have a great, strong relationship with NC Works, which also does a lot of education in various things.
So it seems like we're moving forward, and the residents are having an opportunity to take advantage of the tools that the reentry program has offered or is offering. Matt, let's talk a little bit about Matt.
Okay. MAT is medically assisted treatment or medication assisted treatment. And what this is the Guilford County Sheriff's Office, as you know, detention centers are moving toward the concept of trying to combat the opioid epidemic that we have here in Guilford County. Guilford County is one of the, and I call it ground zero in the country and definitely in the state of opioid abuse. And so what we are seeing and what we know that we have to do is try to offer these folks, the residents, while they're inside, treatment for this. There's been cases where currently the only folks that get the treatment are pregnant females, and that is mandated through our medical services. What we look to do is in a phased step program is to offer medication assistance, whether it be methadone or Suboxone or some of the other medications for the opiate addicted person. There have been federal lawsuits brought against folks who are getting that treatment on the street who happen to get picked up on an outstanding warrant or a new charge. If they come into the facility, we're sort of putting them into forced withdrawal. So what we're looking to do is try to get this MAT program so that these medications that can assist will be available to them, and it will be a phased program and hopefully address the withdrawal symptoms and problems, and also involved educational opportunities and substance abuse opportunities while they're inside, so that once they get out, it's not, I'm going to go right out and start using, overdose, or go right back into committing crimes to support my habit. We want these folks to leave better than when they arrived, and hopefully healthier, and that includes substance abuse treatment.
Okay. All right. So that would be something that will we can go back and sit down with county commissioners and county government, county manager, and let them understand, show them the data of how and why we need it and why it would help, how it would help. And I also like the idea that, you know, as we move around, and we'll talk about that for a second too, how we moved around throughout the county, educating people with the reentry piece of it. But it is important, once again, I've said, to have our stakeholders. People don't want to be a part of anything until it affects them. And that's real talk. And we're trying to, I'm hoping and believing that that's what our goal is, our mission and vision is to reach and try to reach those individuals, as well as trying to prevent things that's been going on. We know back in 2015, I think it was, where the federal government gave $14 million to the state of North Carolina to help combat opioid. Well, that was just a drop in the bucket, you know. So if you take 100 counties in the state, that was not a whole lot of money to do, especially when you were averaging 2,500 people dying of overdoses a year in the state. That's huge. So let's talk about the fact of making sure, how can we continue to move throughout the county and educate and begin to have more stakeholders come to the table with us to help bring the budget needs that we need to keep reentry a part of Guilford County Sheriff's Office for the citizens of Guilford County, whether they are misdemeanors, felonies, drug addicted, homeless, or whatever. What do we need to do?
Well, one of the tools that we've used as far as educating is our reentry simulation.
Okay.
And so
you got
a chance to participate in that. The reentry simulation allows stakeholders, employers, probation officers to really understand the barriers that men and women who are on probation, men and women who are coming home, the barriers that they face. For example, there are stations that are set up to get your ID card, to get see your probation officer, various things that they have to do in order to move forward in society. And so the simulations allows us to walk in their shoes. I tell folks the first time I went through the simulation, I said a cuss word because I was so frustrated of what the process was about and how I continued to meet with resistance. And so that's been very successful throughout the county. We plan on doing a couple more this year.
Now, I noticed last year we also moved around to Davidson County, some other counties, and utilized their facilities with the training. I participated in it. I never got out. I never got out of jail. Off of probation. I kept going back because of the frustration and the red tape. You know, I get it. We need to have things in place to get it done. I get that. I understand that. But what can we do before they exit the front doors of the residents, Guilford County Detention Services? What can we do to give them those tools, transportation, what is it? Bus passes. I never could get a bus pass in the simulation. I was back. And that's frustrating, especially when you're trying. And I believe a lot of people out here try and they get frustrated and they just can't seem to get it.
Well, one saying that I'd heard in one of the educational opportunities that we have had as the reentry team is, if we make it hard to do the right thing, then we conversely make it easy to do the wrong thing. Okay. So the reentry program, we are desperately trying to join with the community, because there's so many wonderful programs already existing in the community, to make it easy to do the right thing and to give folks not a hand out, but that hand up and get them on the right path. Chap had mentioned peer support specialists. We have the medical peer support specialists, but we also are getting ready to implement an actual reentry peer support specialist. And this is some part-time hours for folks who have been there and done that and have made a success of their personal reentry story, to come back to work with others and help them navigate things, from trying to get an apartment when you have, all of these charges, and even if they've been adjudicated on your record, you have nowhere to live. I mean, unless you can live with relatives, because you have so many places that will not accept. So we're trying to build these partnerships for housing. That's another component of those key focal points that we're doing, is housing and those other things. So we're still at the cusp of this, because it takes a lot to get all of these things in place, but we're making strides.
And one of the things that the reentry locally, previous when we were, 2015, 2016, we knew that there was a need. But when the reentry program began to take hold, when individuals who are in our county jails, if they have needs as far as reentry, they sign up, and our case managers go in and actually meet with those individuals. And so we have data. When they're ready to leave, we're able to see when they're ready to leave. And we have the data. Once they come home, our case managers follow up with them to see where they're at, how they're doing, what are some of their needs. So the reentry locally has given us that input into the lives of those men and women who are coming home. So, our main goal is to make sure that they're able to change their narrative. Okay. For some of them, it's, I'll always be and I never was, but we want to make sure that we provide them with the resources and supports that will allow them to move beyond some of those stereotypes that they have.
I understand. So on this closing, I'd like to let's talk a little bit about your team, because when people look at us, they think, well, that's the team. Let's talk a little bit about your team that you have in place that's working. Let's talk about that.
Good, HB.
Currently, we have 3 people that are assigned to the reentry, myself and Chap, and we also have KJ Adams, who was formerly the classification officer inside the High Point Detention, so she knows the population that we're dealing with on the inside. She is familiar with the processes inside the detention facilities. We also have a great team of 4 interns, and there is a collaborative program through UNCG and A&T, master social workers, and we have been absolutely blessed the past year and a half or so with interns who commit to us for a year to assist us. And so they're trained and they're going inside the detention facilities and working as, directly with case management. Just so many exciting things and exciting avenues that we're traveling. We have different partners. We have a Dr. Lacey Frazier who has provided us with, and we embrace this concept as the coach approach. And it's a way of dealing with people. We're breaking down the old paradigm of us against them, lock them up and throw away the key, and just like Chap said, their own feelings about themselves as, I'm not ever going to change, or, my life's always going to be this way. And instead of fostering that, we create a sense of we're coaching them through, and I will work as hard as you work to help you realize what is your dream and those things. So we have a lot of community partners, so many dedicated people that serve with the Reentry Council that work as sort of an extension. Obviously, 3 people can't do this, so we have an extended family that we have that assist us with the endeavors.
All right. Well, I thank you all so very much for your service and everything that you're doing for Guilford County citizens, especially through the Guilford County Sheriff's Office. But I tell people, it's not about the Sheriff's Office. We're here because we have to be here to bring and make sure that mandates are done and accountability is in place. But our goal is to serve people. And I believe if we continue to serve people, we will see a change in the lives of many people. Thank you. This has been Coffee Time with Sheriff Rogers.